Well, the old springtime wildflowers are really taking over this year. The whole yard's full now. Well, it was just a few flowers the last time I filmed it and showed it to you, and they're not even all popped out yet. We got a lot of these purple jobbies this year, more than usual. Anyway, this will all be partially plowed up this year. I'm not going to grow a large garden like I did last year. That we might have another drought, and I just don't want to fight that anymore. That was horrible last year. Well, little old Mac just came back from the groomers, and wifey brought him by for me to take a look at. So let's take a look at him. Well, there he is, and he looks so handsome. How's my handsome baby? Oh, look at him. Oh, he looks so good. Yes, he does. Now he needs to be walked. And there he is. Mac, how you doing, big boy? He says, I gotta use the bathroom. Woohoo. Well, for some reason we've been having an attack of the appliances. First it was the timer in the wife's dryer. And now the refrigerator decides to stop cooling as well as it should. It was cooling, but not as well as it should. So I took the old vacuum cleaner and flashlight and got down up there and looked around, and look what was on that coil. Holy mackerel. A ton of dust. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and vacuum it all out, and I think that will solve our problem. You got to keep those things clean. If you don't keep them clean, they can't get rid of the heat. If they can't get rid of the heat, your refrigerator will not cool. Okay, I also took the back off the refrigerator, this grill you see down here, and vacuumed off the blades of the fan, and got a ton of dust out of there too. So I decided we better vacuum the complete bottom of this thing, so we're going to tip it over on its side. I know that's not good practice, but I really don't have a lot of choice. There was so much dust down there. Well, she's turning out pretty good, but there's a lot of dust up inside there that I'm going to have to get out. And we're going to bring out old Big Bertha, the air compressor, and we're going to just give this thing a good blowout here. Okay, now I got it all fixed for you, didn't I?
Yes, you did. I appreciate it. Thank you very,
very much. I know you did, and it didn't take a whole lot. I mean, my genius just kicked right in, and
sure did.
Next thing you know, we just working fine. It's looking, it works great.
A black refrigerator.
Yep, look at that. I even changed the color on it.
I appreciate it.
And I stuck you in an ice maker, by the way.
Yeah, I noticed that. Right in the door.
Right in the door. Did you like that? Was that good?
I love that.
I'm telling you, when you're good, you're good. You know what I'm saying? Good. Yeah. You got yourself a handyman here, don't you?
I definitely got a handyman.
Last year when I put in my garden, I planted potatoes in the tires. It was an experiment to see if it would work. Well, it worked, but the drought really sort of did them in. They didn't flourish like they should. They looked good for a while, but they never really put out a whole lot of potatoes. So, and also we had a lot of ants. Ants burrowed into potatoes. I am not happy with the ants. And I think a lot of that had to do with the drought. I'm not sure. They were looking for moisture or whatever. Of course, they get in potatoes anyway. So this year we're going to try it a different way that I read about on the internet. What my grandson is doing here is boring holes in the bottom of a 32-gallon trash can. Now these are pretty sturdy trash cans. Not those little flimsy crap, you know. I got these at Walmart. The ones at Lowe's are so flimsy you could almost see through them. Wait a minute, Joseph. And he's boring holes 2 inches from the bottom to here and 6 inches apart around the outside perimeter. Go for it. That's a 9/16 inch hole, by the way. Those are for drainage. The next thing I'm going to do is take about 3 or 4 inches of garden soil mixed with a little bit of cow manure. Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. And we're going to put it in the bottom of this barrel. Alright, we covered up the drain holes with the garden soil. Now comes the cow manure. Hey honey,
yes?
Can you come out here and scoop this cow manure out for us? Just kind of reach in there and scoop out this cow manure.
No, I'm not doing it.
Why not?
I'm not using my hands.
Are you going to eat these potatoes when they grow? This procedure in the internet website that I went to called for a 20-gallon barrel. This is a 32-gallon barrel. And they recommended in the 20-gallon barrel that you put 3 potato sets of eyes in it. Well, this being a 32, I'm going to go ahead and put 4 sets of these potato cuts in it, and they should have at least 3 eyes. 1, 2, 3. At least 3 eyes on the cutting. So we're going to stick it down there, maybe an inch or two below the soil. Alright, they're all buried. I went ahead and put about another ½ an inch of garden soil on top of here, because once I wet it, it's going to go down. You know how it is, it'll pack down. Now look, the idea here is not to wet the soil to where it's, sopping wet. You just want to dampen it up. There's enough moisture in the potato cuttings that the potatoes will start to grow. So I'm going to kind of give it a quick spray with a garden hose here. Well, check out that faucet. Looks like I'm going to have to put me a gasket in. Either that or a whole new faucet on. I have to think about that for a while. Oh well, let's go ahead and put a little bit of water down on the top of these potatoes. I'm not going to put a whole lot, just kind of dampen it up. And just a little bit more maybe. I think that'll do it. Doesn't take a whole lot. Incidentally, once the plant gets 6 to 9 inches high, when those plants get 6 to 9 inches high, I'm going to cover all of them up with more garden soil. Cover them completely up. And then as they grow, I'll continue to cover it, just like mounding it up in a garden. Eventually we'll get to the top of the barrel, and the potato plants will grow over the side and hang down and everything, and that's as far as we'll go. We'll just let it continue to grow, keep moisture on it, a little fertilizer maybe, and once they die away, I should get 30 pounds of potatoes out of this. That's the plan. The second barrel of potatoes has been prepared and put in there. So we got, in this barrel we have red, and in this barrel we have white. Now all we have to do is stand by for the mega harvest. In our last Mish-Mash video, I showed you these mid-range woofers I had purchased. I bought 2 of them, and it's time to show you why. Remember those $5 speakers I bought at Salvation Army? For those of you who watch my videos, you remember that. I got them to go with my cheap setup stereo system I was putting together. And these are 2-way speakers. They're Fishers. And I told you at the time that if I could find some good 3-way speakers, these babies would go the way of the dodo bird, and the 3-way speakers would take their place. Well, what we have here is not a set of 3-ways, but a set of 4-ways. This is just one of them. I picked these things up when I went to Rogers, Arkansas. For those of you, again, who follow my videos, you know I went to Rogers recently to spend some time with our grandson. And while I was there, we take him to karate lessons and do all the things his parents do, and when they're normally there, but they were on vacation. So whenever I take him to karate lessons, across the parking lot is a Krispy Kreme shop, donut shop. Oh, I just love Krispy Kreme. And just down a few doors from the karate school is a Goodwill. And of course, we always hit the Goodwill and then hit the Krispy Kreme, Wrong, you go to the Krispy Kreme first, man. You always go to the Krispy Kreme first. And then you hit the Goodwill. Okay, when I walked into the Goodwill shop, these speakers were sitting there. 2 of them, identical. And they're Sansui SPX 7700s. And boy, were they in great condition. The only problem this thing had, this is the one speaker that had some problems, if you want to call them problems. Had a little nick right here in the wood, and right here, I'll stain that, you won't even see it. And down here, where this Sansui emblem had twisted it, put a couple of gouges. That's it, on the outside. The other problem, after I got them home, was that both mid-range woofers were gone. They were just, there's no continuity in them. And I got on the horn with my old buddy Brendan up there in Detroit, and I said, what do you know about speakers? I've never really worked on speakers before. He says, well, I know quite a bit. So he told me all about this and all about that. And then he told me that I'll probably find non-polarized electrolytic capacitors in there. Well, I'm glad that I contacted him, because I did not know there were non-polarized electrolytic capacitors in here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and the mid-range I bought were a little bit smaller than this, but I can make them work. As far as the size of the frame, I can make it work. And I'm going to go ahead and install these in the crossover network, which is located behind the large speaker. And once I do that, there's 6 capacitors here, 3 for each speaker. And once I do that, I should have everything functioning 100%, I hope. Alright, I've got one of the middies in. All I had to do is, drill a couple of different holes and put the screws in. She's nice and solid, fits perfect. There was plenty of wood there to do that with. I got kind of lucky. And I'm moving right along with the capacitor replacement. The black ones are the replacements. I have one left to do, and that's one right there. And once I get done with that, all the crossover caps will be changed out. These two coils are good. These are coils. And these two 10-watt resistors are both good also. Your standard electrolytic capacitor is polarized. It has black on one end, which is positive, and it has shiny on the other end, which is negative. And if you forget which is which, on the side there's usually some arrows that point toward the negative. Positive, negative, electrolytic. There's another kind of electrolytic capacitor out there. It's non-polarized. In other words, there is no positive and negative. It's exactly the same, you might say, as one of our yellow capacitors that we normally, a film capacitor. Only the capacity is very large. In this case, it's 8.2 microfarads. Now this one's only rated at 50 volts. Same on both ends. And it usually says right on it, let me see if it says on here, it says, there you go, it says bipolar. 8.2 microfarads, 50 volts, bipolar. Okay? That's the difference between non-polarized and polarized. Both electrolytics, though. I'm also going to be growing some radishes in containers this year. That old drought last year taught me a valuable lesson. We worked and worked, and it was all for nothing, really. But this year, we're going to do a little bit different. Nice, deep plastic container for radishes. I'm going to drill some holes in the bottom, maybe an inch or so up, all the way around. Maybe one there, one in the middle, one on the end. Same thing on the other side. Alright, that'll do it. I mixed two different kinds of garden soil, one of them being Miracle-Gro, organic type stuff. And I also mixed some topsoil in it, and I mixed some cow manure. And I couldn't get the wife to come out and mix the cow manure again. I can't figure it out. A country girl, afraid to get her hands on a few cow turds. These are the radishes we're going to grow. I got some cherry bells and a couple of packs of champions. I like the real white red ones the best. I'm just start poking my finger in there and start putting seeds in. I'm the kind of guy that likes to put one seed in one hole when you're planting like this. It just makes things so much better. Get better radishes. And that's it. A seed in every hole. Now we can go ahead and just kind of cover it over. And then we'll wet it down with the old hose and we'll let her sit. Then again, wait for the bountiful harvest. This morning I've been cleaning the top on the Edison wind-up phonograph. At some point in time, an individual put a complete coating of shellac over the entire cabinet. I'll tell you what, it's been rough getting it off. It crinkled up and turned into an alligator type of deal. But bless his little heart, he tried his best to preserve this thing. He probably the same guy that put that grill in, that speaker grill, and he did a few other things. Apparently there were some dings and dents. He put some filler in here and some filler in here. And, he did his best for what he had, I suppose. It was probably done several years ago. But anyway, I'm going to remove the shellac. It's going to be a long process, unfortunately. And, they said the best thing to remove shellac with is denatured alcohol. Well, I got news for folks. Now, this is something you might want to keep in mind. At first, I used 91% rubbing alcohol, and it was taking it off fine. But then, I said, I'm only going to do that until I get my hands on some denatured alcohol next time I go to the store. So we have this denatured alcohol, and guess what? It doesn't work any better than 91% rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol takes it right off just as easily, and it's a whole lot cheaper. Yeah. Yeah, they're fixed. Everything's good to go. I love it. And they're mounted on the wall, and that's where they're going to stay. The other two will probably, the ones that were there originally, will probably be donated back to the Salvation Army. Anyway, I've got $56 wrapped up in these two speakers. Each speaker cost me $10 at that Goodwill store. And you know, the mid-range speakers I put in, plus the cap changeover for each of the, new caps installation for each of the crossover networks. Total of 56 bucks, the whole thing. Not bad for a nice, beautiful set of speakers like that. The deals are out there. You just gotta find them. If you don't mind doing a little work on them, you can bring them back from the dead. Bring them. Some guy just didn't want to do the work on these things. I picked them up for a song. Nice stuff. Good stuff. Alright, lastly, let's see what we can do about this faucet leaking, if anything. Well, it turns out this entire faucet is just falling apart. It's just, the packing's gone, everything is messed up on it, just worn out. Probably been here since the house was built back in the 60s. Anyway, meanwhile, I just went ahead and put an extension out there and capped it off. That'll keep water flowing in the house. Anyway, that's the end of this Mish-Mash video. I hope everybody had at least one thing that they enjoyed watching. And I appreciate you watching. I really do. Thanks a lot, guys. Until next time, this is John.